What in the world? Check, check, check. All right. I think I got it now figured out. 1, 2. All right. World, check, check, check. Getting configured. Just about 2:00. I am taking over your Native Wellness Institute Power Hour of Power, or whatever. We are. I'm gonna be keeping track this time. I don't usually do a good job of comment watching, so I'm gonna try to do a better job of checking the comments here. Hey, what's up? All right, you guys are watching with me. All right. So I should start off first of all, Hawaii. Jaje Wite, Marcus. Hello, my name is Marcus. I also go by Emcee One. Osage, Potawatomi, Delaware, Puerto Rican on my dad's side. And so I like every now and then to get the opportunity to just kind of take over the broadcast here and hang out for a little bit and share a few things. Sometimes the concept of hanging out with Emcee One is sometimes I'll bring some friends with me. And today I have a very special guest that I'm going to share their program with you and what they're about and stuff. But first, just kind of like the framework of, for those that are just joining, the Native Wellness Institute, this hour was developed, so that we could meet the needs of healing that's out there. So that to offer some kind of a different, why would it do that? Let's see. Okay. Oh, I'm back. Well, we're gonna stick with it. We're gonna go with it and we're gonna make it work. So anyway, the concept was that, trauma, the answer to trauma is healing. And so we want to provide some kind of healing context and some content out there that is hopeful, and some other programs that are doing good stuff in any country. And so we know that people, especially in our communities, are tied to generational trauma and generational loss. But we're also tied to, I love how Shailene Joseph says this, we're also tied to generational wisdom. And so in that, we like to hear from different voices of that have wisdom in our communities. And so, man, I'm excited. I'm giddy to be able to be a part of anything Native Wellness Institute does. Just so you guys know, I work with a lot of different conferences, and I love all the places that I get to serve and work. There's a handful, though, that are very close to my heart. And Native Wellness Institute is one of those that is like, we go way back. Let me see if I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll go way back here. Go way back. Can y'all see that? I mean, old school. We used to go to all the conferences back when I was about 100 pounds ago. Anyway, old school. And I love what it's meant to me in my life and my growth and my development. It's given me an opportunity to grow into the man I am today because, they took the time out back then and gave space and opportunity. So I'm always appreciative of anything that Native Wellness Institute does, and being able to be a part of this is real cool. So I just want to acknowledge that and say that I absolutely love getting to be involved in anything that they do. Whenever Jolene calls, it's like the bat phone going off. And so I used to rap, DJ. I'm a youth advocate. Let me give you guys a little catch up, since for those of you that are familiar, and then for those of you who aren't familiar with kind of like who I am and what I do. And let's see, this may take me somewhere crazy, but let's see. So as you know, I'm an advocate for youth to do youth conferences and trainings and consultings, but I also DJ. And recently, the biggest development is I've started working with the Thunder, Oklahoma City, DJing for the Thunder. It's been a pretty cool little change. And I've also started relying on the mentorship with Jolene and been bouncing off of her this nonprofit that I've been kicking around for the last couple of years. And I've been kind of doing it behind the scenes, so I haven't really been telling a lot of people about it, but it's been allowing me to go places that otherwise couldn't afford it, or they had like low funds or no funds. And so behind the scenes, this is something that I created to help in that process, you know, so that there would be a way for us to be able to still make the services happen. And so that's me in a nutshell. My background, One Entertainment, is entertainment with the inner in mind. And so that's a little blip about that. And so I have a very, very special guest. One of the frameworks of hanging with Emcee One and getting to take over our power is I have, you know, some really cool people that I hang with. I like to hang with cooler people than myself, so smarter people than myself, and people who are doing more than myself. And so I'm going to be bringing some friends with me when I get to do these little host overs. And so I'd like to introduce a sister of mine. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, she's from ABLE, the American Indigenous Business Leaders. And Prairie, are you out there? Let me see you real quick. Make sure your video is working. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Prairie from ABLE. ABLE. What was important to me about this was making sure that some of the Native Wellness Institute was familiar with you. I know that we were going to have Jolene and Shailene come be at our conference, and because of COVID, that didn't happen. But real quick, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and a little bit of background about what ABLE is about.
Sure, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's cool to see your introduction, take a little walk down memory lane, see where you started. Like you said, my name's Prairie, Bighorn Blunt. I recently got married, so I'm making the transition. Been a Bighorn for over 40 years, so it's a little bit of a change, but happy to make it. I have the privilege, the honor to work with the American Indigenous Business Leaders. It's the only Native nonprofit that aims to foster and really support Indigenous entrepreneurs and people who are interested in doing economic development on or really anywhere near our reservations. That kind of sounds a little bit ambiguous because it is. You know, anytime you're dealing with entrepreneurs, like the sky's the limit. So we get to work with students in a lot of different ways. One of the targeted ways that we work with students is we provide scholarships. We do that through one of our partnerships with the American Indian Graduate Center. Angelique over there provides our scholarship administration. And we also do paid internships, which has been, it's really cool. One of the reasons that ABLE was founded was because tribal leaders expressed this need that students go to school, they get their education, but they don't get the work experience that they need. So when they would come home to tribal communities, you know, they didn't have work experience. And so, I mean, this is kind of common knowledge, but you can have a lot of book smart, a lot of head smart, you can know how things work in theory, but until you have the chance to really get in there, get your hands dirty, you might not really know the ins and outs of what your education taught you. So ABLE was created and designed to help students get that real world practical experience. So we have a lot of really cool partners in that arena. You just pulled up some pictures from Nike. We have partnerships with Nike, with N7. We have a cool partnership that we just added this year, with Sony Entertainment in New York City. We're going to be hosting 2 interns this summer. So if you're out there, we're looking for people that are passionate about music, and we're going to be we'll be really ramping up our search for students here in the next couple months. But just kind of want to put that on your radar. But that's kind of in a nutshell. That's what we do. Oh, we do the conference. I'm sorry, the leadership development. That's that's our main thing. We do leadership development. Like you said, with COVID, it's been different. It's been weird. I think we've had to pivot just like everyone else has. And just trying to figure out, how do we meet the needs of our students? Students' needs are changing daily. So how do we keep up with those needs? How do we make sure that the things that we're providing for our students, how do we make sure they're relevant? And one of the ways that we do that is we reach out directly to our students. We have a group of, they're called Indigenous scholars. They're people who have gone through our internship program and who still stay plugged into Able. And we sort of use them as like a youth sounding board, a student sounding board. So we talk to them, especially during this pandemic, and ask them, how do we help? How do we support you? How do we make sure you can stay in school? And one of the big things that came up was a lot of our students are, they're students, but they also live on campus, they eat on campus, some of them work on campus. So when campus is shut down due to the pandemic, it's like it's like all bad, right? Because now they don't have anywhere to live. They don't have anywhere to eat. And also their job is gone because campus isn't open anymore. So a lot of our students were experiencing like just really, really bad situations at school. So we took the opportunity and partnered with some people, and we were able to give some much needed COVID relief support to students. One of our main goals at Able is obviously to make sure our students can excel when they're at school. So this pandemic and this crisis really, really challenged us to get back to like the base level. If you're talking about the hierarchy of needs, which you and I have talked about before, but you know, the base level is what do you need to physically stay alive? You need shelter, you need food, you need water. And so a lot of these things were being challenged, you know, because of the pandemic. So it sort of gave Able the opportunity to really evaluate what it is that we do. How do we make sure our programming is completely relevant with our students? And so we've done a lot of internal work within the organization, kind of coming out with a new structure on programming, on what we will, you know, be going stepping into the future with. I believe the board believes that it's the best option that we can offer our students. It's the most help that we can actually give them in a practical sense. So I'm excited. I think this pandemic has been a challenge, to say the least, for all of us, especially Native communities, for all the reasons that everyone is well aware of. But I also have been trying to look at it as an opportunity to break the system, figure out how we rebuild the system to make sure that it's exactly what we want and make sure it's exactly what our students need. So we're kind of in the midst of that. We're getting it fleshed out.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like we can sort of see the light. For a minute there, it felt like there was no light. Yeah. So, you know, thankful that we're walking forward through all of this. But what was your question? Cool. You know, I know that wasn't your question.
No, I'm not. Absolutely was. You know what? It absolutely was, and that's why I wanted you to join me. I appreciate you doing it too. On the sister level, you were like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." So, and
because, I forgot, you know, by the way.
You're good. We do these kind of conversations a lot. You know, yeah. You and I, we back and forth. We ping pong a lot on how best to serve and how best, you know, we can utilize our resources, our friendships, our networks to provide, you know, for our communities that we serve. And so with that, the reason that I wanted you to come on today, because not just because we're cool and because I love what you do and I love Able and everything it's about, but because they're on the fundamental level of how we serve and really make impact and change. I wanted us to have that kind of conversation and about, so like what it means to have enterprise, why do that. Sometimes that's like a mixed message in some of our communities, that they might see enterprise as the enemy, or that's corporate, or whatever that, you know, that belief system that has to change. I kind of wanted us to speak to that a little bit of why enterprise is important in our communities, if you wouldn't mind touching on that.
Yeah, sure. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had to plug in. I was about to lose power over here. Yeah, like you said, you and I have had many conversations about this concept in general. And one thing that I feel like it really resonates with me, and I feel like it rings true with Native communities, is that originally we were here, we've been here, right? So we were the original stewards of abundance of this land. And back in the day, you know, you rewind X amount of years and there was no lack here. There was complete abundance. And we were given that that stewardship to make sure that things stayed in balance, to make sure that you know, that it stayed that way. And we know history, we know what happened, we know where we are now. All of that, you know, pointing towards the need for healing because of trauma that has taken place within our communities. But I feel like the part of the healing for us as Native people is going back and remembering. If you want to put it in like really simple economic terms, like we were crazy rich back in the day. We had access to every single thing that we needed, right?
Wow.
We never needed anything. If we needed something, we knew where to get it. We knew who to trade with for. So back in the day, our ancestors didn't operate on this principle of lack or
Right.
you know, they operated out of abundance. And part of the whole don't get me started, no, part of the whole one of the most detrimental things I think that has happened to our communities is the idea that we don't deserve to be here. We don't deserve to have anything because we are not supposed to be here. And one of the things I love about the Land Back campaign, shout out to Indian Collective, my girl Crystal over there, but one of the things I love about that campaign is that it's putting it front and center. Hey, you are still on our land and we have been here and we deserve to be here because this is where the Creator placed us. And we were given, you know, mass amounts of wealth to steward. And, you know, what has happened was not right, was not just, was not, like I said, don't get me started. But I think part of the healing for us as Native people is to come back to the realization that, dang, like years ago, our ancestors were rich. Our ancestors had every single thing that they needed. And believing the colonial lie that we shouldn't be here and that we should be happy for whatever scraps we can get, like, I'm over it, right?
Yes.
I'm over it. And I think that part of the programming at Able going forward is going to be healing and relearning, you know, who you actually were. The minute I have two little girls, they're 5 and 8, and they love to hear, they call them Indian stories. And they love to hear stories about their ancestors who did crazy brave things. And when we tell the stories like the Trail of Tears, like the Cheyennes who walked back from, you know, southern Oklahoma to Montana, when I tell them these stories, you can just see their countenance and the light in their eyes just spark up because it's resonating with them. They're thinking, those were my ancestors. If they could do stuff like that, like I can do things like that. I always teach them that, hey, you guys can do hard things, you know, because our ancestors have done hard things.
Wow.
So there's that resiliency that's built in. But I think I think we need to push it further. I think we really need to push it further and say, hey, we were actually created to be original stewards of this abundance on this land. So how do we get back to that point? And how do we be okay with it?
Yeah.
I have a lot of successful friends. You do too. I know that. And I've had conversations with them where they're successful because they're absolutely brilliant and talented. But there's this like veil of almost like a shame because they're like, it doesn't feel right for them to be so successful because of the condition that our overall communities are in. And I think it's a topic that deserves a lot more conversation around it. And I'm happy you're bringing it up because I like to talk about it.
Well, because it leads to, like, for me, it's the mental part of the game. Like for me, it's like seeing ourselves, you know, like I love how Jolene Joseph talk about, you know, yes, we have generational trauma, historical trauma.
Yeah.
We also have historical generational wisdom that we're tied into both. And so by having that option, and then so it becomes then it becomes a mental game of how do I see myself. I struggle with, what you were just saying about, when it comes to success, you get these accolades, but then you feel a little guilty. Like, do I qualify, or I shouldn't have these things? And then who told me I shouldn't have these things? Where did that come from? Who tells me that? Shailene and I were talking at one point about having a seat at the table, and she just said, we build our own tables. And I just love the mindset when it switches over and it thinks along those lines, of the fact that, and I know that we're not speaking for all natives in a sense like pan-Indian way, but in a sense of where there is like a consistency with what of our shared journeys, is this concept of this wealth and natural resources that we were stewards in our DNA. At our DNA level, we were stewards of abundance, and we didn't have a problem with that. It wasn't necessarily based on like ownership and greed and all that, but there was this ability to have abundance and steward it well without even a thought. That's part of who we are underneath the surface. So one of the things I battle is this, and have battled throughout the course of trying to better my condition for my family, better my condition for myself, and improve the conditions around me, and be able to have enough to try to give to places. One of the things I had to overcome was this battle between humility and poverty, and like those things on like an Indian spiritual way of those things being kind of somehow tied together. I don't know who tied them together, but somehow they got tied together to where the more humble I am, the more broke I am. I want to make sure I'm saying that whether you have or you don't have isn't a litmus indicator of your spiritualness, right? So whether you have a lot or have a little, your spiritual level is supposed to be here.
Right.
So I see people that equate having a lot with their spiritual. That's incorrect. But I wonder why I felt like we had to battle this linkage to like the having a lot means I'm less spiritual. Like, oh man, I can't. If I'm really going to be humble, then I need to be of meagerly means. That those two things go together. Have you experienced anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something that, we all struggle with at a certain point. And I think it's interesting that you say, like, where did that come from? Like, who told us that? Like, can we find that person and have like a really deep conversation with them? But I think it all goes back to trauma. Like our communities were literally almost wiped out.
Wow.
As the result of trauma. And I think that, who knows? I mean, I really don't know. I don't know the origin of it, but I do know that it persists today. So I know that the root must be really deep.
Yeah.
But how do we raise kids? How do we, like foster students that can grow up and thrive and not feel like that's a reflection of if they're a spiritually sound person or not?
Right.
Now how do we do that? Because that's the challenge. That's a challenge we have as parents. That's a challenge we have as people that work with Indigenous youth, because our youth are dealing with some really, really heavy issues. That. And things like this, they weigh heavy on their mind because, nobody wants to feel like, if I'm going to be successful, people are going to, think less of me, or they're going to think that I'm not, as humble as I should be, or, that brings a lot of psychological baggage to the table before you even get to the point,
Yeah. That's where I feel like you're right on the money with the trauma and why healing is important. I had to go through a lot of levels of healing before I could step towards the thing, before I felt qualified to even take positive steps. Because I always say what you step towards, you attract. What you attract, it follows you around and gives you miraculous opportunities for more of the thing you're stepping towards. So before I even felt worthy to step towards positivity, I had to first undergo like a little, like a prerequisite level of healing. And then it's been constant, I might still check in with Jalene, and we just chit chat on that. Just like, hey, this what's up, like I'll bounce issues off her and be like, hey, this is where I'm at. I had a traumatic car wreck. So coming out of that, I would bounce off her. Hey, I'm feeling this and this and that. What's the healing remedy for that? because
Yeah.
as business people, and what I want to lean it back into with, American Indigenous, business leadership in our communities, this, I heard at your conference, one of your board members talk about Standing Rock and the vision of having enterprise on the res and why it was so important,
Hmm.
And I remember listening to a speaker at Res, the Reservation Economic Summit, talk about how in non-minority communities and white communities, the dollar bounces like 19 times. So for a
Yeah.
community to gain wealth, the dollar has to bounce like a bunch of times for the community to thrive. So
Right.
so in those communities, the dollar bounces like 19 times before it leaves, right? In African American communities or communities of color, the dollar lasts 6 hours. And I remember hearing that and going, "Whoa, hold up!" That was a mind blowing stat for me to go, "Wait, 6 hours?" So the guy at the
Yeah.
barber shop who collects his cash for the barber, as a barber, that money is immediately leaving their community, right?
Yeah.
Which then slowly erodes it. I mean, and I remember at your conference, well, I can't remember which board member it was, but they spoke about uh, viewing Standing Rock the same way, about how we have issues with Bismarck, but the money immediately flies there. Like the second the tribe,
Dave. Yeah.
yeah, it was Dave. Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
So maybe you could speak a little bit more on that and how enterprise, why it's so important to communities like that.
Yeah, and I think it happens anywhere you have a large gathering of natives. They have a really big basketball tournament in Rapid City, LNI, Lakota National Invitational,
Yeah,
something,
invitational. Yeah,
LNI.
yeah, yeah.
You've been there. Anyway, so that tournament brings in a ton of money for the community, right? Um, but the natives that come to watch or to participate in the tournament aren't treated very fairly by the people of Rapid City.
Mm-hmm.
They're made to feel like they're not wanted here, even though it's one of the bigger, it's a sizable event, that the community, I'm sure, takes a lot of revenue, generates a lot of revenue for Rapid City, but they're not treated fairly. And man, you know what? It's funny because at the conference, that's something that really stuck with me too, is how do we keep the dollar in our communities to
Mm.
bounce once, twice, three times? How do we do that? And I think one of the ways that we do that is we create an opportunity for entrepreneurs to thrive. So how do we do that?
Right.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at Able is how do we give entrepreneurs the tools so that they can be successful within those arenas, so that they can be a stopping point for the dollar. One of the
Right.
things, one of the things that is lacking on a lot of reservations is there's not options to spend your money there. You have to go off the reservation to go to Walmart, to go to Target, to go to Starbucks. You have to leave the res um, to get what you want in some situations. So how do we create local options for people to spend their dollar?
Yeah.
One of the things we believe at Able is that healthy communities are made up of individuals that are passionate about what they're doing. So when you're passionate about what you're doing, you're loving life. Like you're excited to get up in the morning. You can't wait to get to your work or to do your job. You probably have a career like that. I have a career like that. But how do we create opportunities for other people so that they can figure out what they're passionate about and make a career move out of that? And I think that's one of the answers to keeping the dollars within Indian country is having passionate entrepreneurs that start businesses that attract customers that want to spend their dollar there. You don't want to go to Walmart because you'd rather go down to like this corner store and talk to, the woman that that owns it and have a little conversation, pick up the
Yeah.
things you need, and you don't need to go to Walmart anymore.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we equip entrepreneurs to start thinking of those opportunities? One cool thing that I love, our reservations have such there's not a lot of competition. So whenever you're starting up a business, you like to do, like, it's called a SWOT analysis.
Right.
What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? Well, one of the barriers to starting a business is that there could be a lot of competition. So like if I'm a coffee company, and I want to start a coffee company here in Wolf Point, I have to evaluate the environment and say, okay, we've only got one, we don't have Starbucks, we don't have any of these national chains, we don't have anything. We have one other coffee company here in this community. So that's my competition. One person isn't a lot of competition. When you get off the res, you know, boom, 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 you've got like 6 options of who your competition are. So one of the things that I like to tell students when I'm working with them is, yes, you're looking at a really, really bleak environment for businesses, for entrepreneurs, but how do you use that as a strength? How do you turn that around and say, yeah, nobody else is doing it, but hey, nobody else is doing it, so I can do it.
Right.
I can provide this product, and nobody else is doing it. So you don't have very much competition.
That's right on the money. You know, I always thought of that like in communities of color that I see in this in their inner cities, when that barber guy has to take his cash when he's immediately paid, and it immediately leaves his community because he might not go to the closest gas station with the bars on the window. He might go down out to a larger, well lit corporate entity to get his gas, and so that money just vacates out.
Yeah.
So it almost requires, like what you said, all those pieces, but a mentality piece from the people in the community have to also see those businesses as like almost not like I want to say like sacred, but like so highly respected that like the last thing they would do is like break the windows. The last thing they would do is mess with that. They would see it as like theirs.
Yeah.
And the when instead of blasting it when someone tries to start something, geez, she's trying to start that coffee. Gosh dang it, dang that one. Always trying to think her coffee's the best. Jeez, Louis, you know, it's like outcomes, all these, you know, like
Right.
we have to create this culture of support, you know, almost
Right.
that my first instinct when you start your coffee shop shouldn't be like, you know, like, dang, this one, why she trying to be all coffee out
Right.
all the time? This one, we don't need to be all like that. My
Right.
first instinct should be like, dang, that's cool, you know.
Hmm.
I at least support the effort, you know. I would like to see that. And
Yeah.
with that, I think we stumbled on this. One of the things that struck me were these young students from these very communities that we're talking about standing up on stage at your conference where they lay out these business plans. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, here are these actual plans that
Yeah.
the students created to try to create some sort of commerce in their community.
Yeah.
What's that been like? Share a little bit about the competitions, where they came from, what that's about.
Yeah, sure. So, like you just said, we do a couple different competitions at the conference. We will be doing this year's competition. All of the competitions will be virtual in March 19th and 20th. So, we do a business plan competition, which basically our able chapters get together and they do an evaluation of their community. They figure out the strengths, the weaknesses, you know, what they could bring to the table as far as economic development within their communities. And then they do all the research. I like to say they do the homework. They do the homework and they figure out what do we need to do to make this business successful. And then they write it up. They do the financials, they do projections, they do, you know, market analysis, they do the whole 9 yards. And it's no joke. Like if you're a business and you're hoping to get bank financing or maybe even grant financing, they'll ask you for a business plan. So the things that these students are doing are absolutely valuable. It's not like a little, you know, fun little thing. I mean, maybe it is fun. I don't know, but it's not something easy. It takes time. It takes them months to get this work together. And then we do ask them to stand up, present to a panel of judges who take notes, who ask them questions, who critique, who kind of push back,
Yeah.
and they have to be ready to answer the judges. And then, of course, we give away some prize money. One thing we're doing this year, which is pretty cool, we are going to be doing a live, hopefully in July, we're going to be doing a live entrepreneurs pitch, which will be different. It'll be we're going to be going away from our standard, not going away, we're adding this. This is additional.
Correct.
We're going to be doing an entrepreneur's pitch where rather than a group presentation, this will be one person who has a vision, who has a business idea, who wants to real live start a business within their community. So we'll do this entrepreneurs pitch whenever we have the live conference, hopefully in July this year. And we'll be giving away about $40,000 in prize money, which is a lot.
I'm sorry, what was that?
$40,000 in prize money to, I don't know how we're going to divide it up yet, but that money will go directly in to infuse startup costs for a new business.
Right.
So one of the goals that I've had since I've been at Able is to help move the needle on economic development in Indian country, right? So we're preparing students, we're teaching them how to do it, we're asking them to do these things, do the homework, and then how do we take it a step further and ask them to actually create businesses? And I believe this entrepreneur's pitch is a step in that direction. So I'm really excited about that. We also do an elevator pitch competition. I think you've been a part of that for the past few years, just watching it. We ask students to stand up, get on the stage, hold the microphone. And you know what? Like, just getting up there and collecting yourself and having the presence to articulate who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about, that takes a lot of nerve, and that is a lot harder than it sounds.
It is.
So the more opportunity we can give our students to do that, the better. I worked in DC for a few years, and the DC handshake. Hi, I'm Prairie. This is where I work. This is what I do.
Right.
Now your turn. Who are you and what do you do? It's like that little exchange that in the business world, it happens all the time. And if you're not prepared for it, it could feel awkward. Like, I'm not trying to brag about myself. I'm not trying to make you think that I'm better or this or that. But within the business context, that's totally acceptable. And if you can't do that, or you don't want to do that, you're sort of putting yourself at a disadvantage. So that's that's like the third competition we do at the conference. We also just do like a regular chapter of the year where the chapters get to put together a video presentation of all the different things that they do throughout the year. And our chapters are really, really active within their communities.
Let's break that part down a little bit. So you're set up in a chapter format, right? So you're in high schools, colleges.
High schools, yep.
Break that down.
Yep. High schools, tribal colleges, and colleges. And so the idea is that Able students come in as high school students, then they might transfer to a tribal college where they have an Able chapter as a great support system. Mm-hmm. And then after they graduate, they might transfer to a 4-year, maybe state school where there's another Able chapter. And so they can basically ride this Able train from high school, tribal college to university. Nice. And then they're familiar, they understand what Able is and the different services we provide. And so it just supports them through like every stage of their educational journey. That's the goal.
And they compete as a chapter when they're doing a business plan, and then when they're doing chapter of the year. When they do an elevator pitch, they're doing that just as an individual. Is that right?
Yep. Individual. And so individuals are elevator pitch and the entrepreneur's pitch. Those will be for individuals. And then the group is the chapter of the year, and then also the business plan competition.
Right. And then what do they win? A jacket? They win they win some claps and applause. What do they win at an Able conference? I know the answer, but I want you to share.
Yeah, they win. There's prize money, so they win prize money. They win a trophy, and every year, like the winning packages change a little bit depending on our sponsorships.
Yeah.
But they always walk away with money and a trophy, and honestly, like the bragging rights to say like, hey, we won first, second, or third at the national conference.
I just thought it was real cool that you awarded them with money. Like, money is so taboo to talk about sometimes. Money is we get a little funny when we talk about money,
Right.
And so I just thought it was cool that this organization, because it's as I don't know how to really articulate it, but I'll just go ahead and give it a shot. As not corporate, but as the corporate feel and texture, you're dealing with economics and stuff. But your conference is res, like it's both, which is such a synergy in a room when you're talking about these things with kids that are from remote, like res, not just, and then there's some urban involvement as well, and some schools from those communities. But it's just cool to see to see that. So if there's some aunties, uncles, if there's some college kids watching this right now, some students out there, how would they form an ABLE chapter if they wanted to? How do they do that?
Yeah, so forming is it's pretty easy. If you go to our website, it's just able.org, aibl.org. We have chapter resources. We have a whole packet on walking you through what you need to do if you want to start an ABLE chapter. If you're a student, it's really, really easy. Basically, find a friend that wants to start a chapter with you, and find a faculty person that can kind of help you, sponsor you, and then send in your forms. There's no fee for it. So it's pretty easy. Barriers to entry are really low on starting an ABLE chapter.
That's cool. And then that's most of their work goes towards developing those business plans for those competitions. Now,
Yeah, definitely. And
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
No
I was gonna
problem.
say that. So this year being an asterisk with
Mhm.
COVID, and we're coming out of that, and we're kind of still planning a conference in March for your chapters to compete.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna have something else in the summer, and is that in pencil still with Res?
Yeah. So that's still in pencil with Res. Um, the cool thing about the way we structured it is this first competition, the March 19th through 20th,
Mhm.
that's strictly ABLE chapters. So
Okay.
you have to be like a bona fide ABLE chapter member, current with your membership status, all that stuff, right? Um, but when we go live in March, hopefully, or not March, I'm sorry, July, when we
Okay.
go live with the Res conference, that's open to any youth group. So you could have a Unity youth group put together a business plan. You could have, a group of kids from your local community if you have just kids that get together and want to do it. Um, it's basically open competition for any group of students that want to participate. So we don't normally do that. Normally our competitions are only ABLE. You have to be ABLE chapter, but I mean, everything's changing. The
Right.
world is changing, and this is one of the opportunities that we feel like we can offer youth to get a good look at what we do at ABLE, and really kind of sample the product line that we have developed for students. And the hope is that maybe you do come to the conference in July, then you go back to your school and you're fired up and you're like, hey, we've got to be a part of this. We want to start a chapter here, at our university or our tribal college. So that's the goal. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to um, the competition piece. Like Marcus, you've been there. These kids are
Man,
into
go
it.
hard.
Like
Go
these
hard. It's
students,
crazy.
yeah. They totally go hard, and um, they really prepare for months. So by the time they get on that stage, they're like, let's do this. Like
Yeah.
they're not holding anything back. And it's really, for me, it's cool to see Indigenous students thrive like that, because I think far too often, we're more comfortable in the back, or we don't want to speak up, or we're not sure if we should say something. At the ABLE conference, like these kids there's no reserve. Students are sitting in the front. They're not sleeping in the back. They are there on time. They stay the whole session. I mean, it's a really, really great group of students, and just being from the student perspective, just being around that and being in that and being able to build your network from that caliber of students,
Yeah.
that's huge. Like these are literally like business leaders. I
Mm,
used to say, tomorrow's business leaders, but these students are doing things today that make them business leaders
I
today.
love
So
that.
the fact that we could network with them at the conference, I can't state enough how important that is for the students.
Man, so that's what I really wanted to make sure we got out there, was that the opportunity that's available to non-able participants
Yep.
at the one in July at Res. Res has moved.
July.
What dates in July do they have in pencil right now?
I can't remember. It's mid-July.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's in flux a little bit because they moved their dates to July from
mhm.
a previous date, because they're trying to get just out past some of the COVID
Yeah.
protocol to where people can fly. I know there's a lot of tribes that still are on travel bans. Some of their travel bans are just being released. some we're starting to see. I know in Oklahoma City we just got a slight downtick in the numbers, but it's so slight. So I mean,
Yeah.
you said we are kind of seeing maybe a light at the end of the tunnel here on getting back to some in-person stuff. It might be with masks. It might be a little more distance. I've seen a few flyers for stuff starting that where it's limited seating, so it's not at capacity. It's going to be, it might feel and look a little different, but I just thought it was cool that it was an opportunity for Unity kids, some of the youth that we've been involved with at some of our conferences and Native Wellness Institute, that this sparked something in them. They could be like, "Ooh, hold up, I want to go to that and enter a elevator pitch, or I want to get a business plan put together and see if I can't learn more about it, because it's so cool watching them young people. And I see I love all the conference work I get to do. I love it, But I remember at Able, these little guys, man, just started suiting up. And I was like, oh, hold up. I got a business plan competition. I was like, oh man.
And I love watching them practice the night before. They'll be in the lobby till like midnight practicing. And then they've got to be up by like 7 a.m. to start presentation. Like the dedication is, it's unmatched, I swear. Like it's amazing.
I think we threw a movie night one time, as a late night option. And there were like a handful of kids, maybe at most, me, somebody else that liked Star Wars, and all the other youth, man, they were all like in these little lobby cutouts, and they were little Bengal Hall over here corner practicing with their no cars. I'm like, man, these kids are in it to win it.
Oh yeah, they're not messing around. They're not trying to take a break until their presentation is over. Once their presentation's over, it's over, and they're ready to kind of relax and chill. But until that time, like, they're not watching a movie. We learned that one the hard way, for sure.
It was just an option. It was cool that we set it out there for them. But is there anything on your heart? We only have a few minutes here left. Make sure I give you the opportunity. Is there anything you wanted to, it was kicking around in your heart or in your mind that you wanted to share with anybody? It could be off topic or it could be on topic. It don't matter. It's, if there's anything you wanted to get off your chest, you feel free.
Give me the mic. Yeah, I'll take it. So, no, I think we've covered like a lot of really good, important topics. Really, I think one of the things we talked about at the very beginning was talking about trauma, talking about healing from trauma, talking to yourself about doing the inner work to figure out, why is that triggering me? What trauma is that tied to? And, just to be an encouragement for our students that, hey, we're all in this healing game together. I'm over 40 years old and I'm still trying to every day, figure out how to be more healthy, how to address, the trauma that I've been through, and how to be just a positive person, and how do we pass that on to our kids. So just to be an encouragement that, hey, it's not like a mark on you or a ding on you that you're still dealing with, the effects of residual trauma. I think we all are. I think we're all there. And I think another thing you said earlier I thought was really cool is, hey, you reach out to people. You don't just sit there, wallow, mull it over in your mind and beat yourself up about why you're feeling this way. You have those people, those mentors that you reach out to, and you say, what do you think? Like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on it? And just to encourage youth to always look for that person that you can reach out to, because they're there. We are there. We are here. We are, we're rooting for you. We believe in you. We want to see our communities be stronger because of the youth and for our youth. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Just know that you're created for a purpose. Know that you will find it if you keep looking for it. So just never lose sight of that hope that something good is out there. Like, you were created for something amazing and you will find it. So don't ever give up.
That is awesome. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself about like what the odds are that we're even here. They're even here. And we're here. Like, so like if some young person's out there sitting out there thinking, as you were saying that, I was imagining what the statistical odds are that they already beat to just be here,
Just to be here.
just to have an at bat, like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
That what they didn't even know they dodged and weaved it already
Yeah.
to even. And then when they were born, what's crazy that when you were saying that, I pictured this, like I could see all like how they beat the odds to even be here, and I started thinking about all the ancestors and what they went through so that we could be here.
Yeah.
And then I thought
Yep.
about, like, as a baby. It sounds so crazy, it sounds so off topic, but just that there was a period of time in our shared, no matter who we are, there was a period of time that we couldn't take care of ourselves. We've all
Yeah.
had that. We've
Yep.
all been a baby. Like, no one
Yeah.
escaped.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever been born 12. I don't think. So, like,
Probably
as
not.
far as I know, we all come into this world the same way. We've all had that shared part of our humanity that we've been unable to take care of ourselves, and somebody's done something for us
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
Or you literally would not be here. Like, the fact that you're here, the fact that I'm here, means that somebody did something for me.
Yeah.
So I can't ever say. So all that jarbled in my head when you were talking. I was thinking, dang, I don't think all those odds to get to still be here.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere has done something for them along the way. I hear a lot in my world about, yo, man, I'm self-made. You know what I'm saying? I'm self-made. I mean, that's a cool thing to say. I know it's like you feel like you did it by yourself, no sponsor or no label or whatever. But I don't think any of us can really say that, because somebody somewhere has helped us along the way.
Right.
I always think life is a team sport, and it takes all of us. And like what you said there at the end was that we're all there, we're all in it together. And so lastly, just to kind of close this out here, because we got just like maybe 5 more minutes here, and I think Jillian likes to go right to the time, but
Okay.
no, it's just I wanted to end and tie everything up with maybe not tie it up, but to untie something that's been holding me back when I was coming at this, which was this. There's a scripture, and I know not everybody. I'm not saying the scripture in a Christian capacity necessarily, or preaching or anything, but just that this scripture that people float around when it comes to money, and when it comes to, they say money's the root of all evil, and that always gets brought up whenever we try to do change and try to make put ourselves in position to take care of others, and try to have so that we have enough for not just ourselves but more than us. That you start to have money. That someone will somewhere will say, that money is the root of all evil. Money's the problem. But that scripture, right? Are you
I
familiar
don't
with
think it says that. I think it says the love. I think it says the love of money.
it? It
So,
does.
to me, that says, what's your intent? What is your passion? What is driving you? Are you being driven just by money? Because that's the root of all evil. Like, we're watching it play out today in the stock market, right? Like,
The
you and I had
love,
a quick little chit chat about that.
the
But
love of
what it really underlines the motive of your heart. Are
yes,
you doing this just to make a dollar? Because you'll cheat, you'll lie, you'll steal, to do anything if
yes,
you are just strictly in love with money.
right.
But if your heart is to help your community, and your
Mhm.
heart is to build a legacy for your children, your heart is to find what you're passionate about and share that with other people, money does come along with that. But don't ever lose sight of the fact that don't chase the money.
Right.
Figure out what you're passionate about, plug into that,
Yes.
and don't get off track thinking that you are doing this for the dollar, because at the end of the day, like you said, it's evil. If you're going to love money, it's going to
Yes.
lead you in a bad place. So
Correct.
just avoid it. Don't do that. Think,
I was,
plug into something higher,
I was so glad I could pitch that to you, because I knew you knew that scripture. It doesn't say money's the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of,
Right.
and that's the key distinction, is that we don't love money. We love people.
No.
We
Right.
love community.
Exactly.
We love we want the best for them. We don't.
Absolutely.
And that's a key frame to make sure that everything we talked about with
Yeah.
enterprise and
Yep.
entrepreneurialism and success and accolades
Yep.
and all those different things, we want to make sure that in that it's in context with the fact that
Yeah.
it's not loving money, it's loving people and being able to
Yeah.
provide. And so
Yeah,
with that,
absolutely.
I want to say thank you for taking your time out for today. Appreciate you on the sisterhood of just, rallying up. I know that we're going to have, Native Wellness Institute at the
Mm.
conference. And so at some point that's all going to
Yeah, yeah,
happen. This is kind of like a pre-family meeting anyway, kind of a,
yeah, yeah.
collab deal, but I appreciate, you being willing to, I wanted their network to be exposed. And I also want to cross pollinate some of the cool things that are happening in any country so
Yeah,
people know what else is happening out there. And they know that a lot of people are doing some cool stuff. And so I appreciate
yeah,
you taking
definitely.
your time and I'm going to see if there's any questions before I let you all the way go. Your
All
life is
right.
sacred. The world needs more of what you have. A lot of these comments are really good. Thank you guys for today. Um, yeah, with you, hearts, loves, prayers. People have some really cool stuff to say. Watching with you, watching. Yeah. Oh, some hearts, some loves. You got a lot of love out there for today. So again,
Cool.
appreciate you. And I had one more thing I was gonna sign you off with, but oh no, it was
We're,
it was just what your website was.
oh yeah, we're just
Able.org.
able.org. Yep.
AIBL.org.
Yes, yes. That's it. Simple.
All right. Well, that's it for today, my takeover. And I appreciate everyone out there that was watching and hanging with us. And until next time, take care of one another. And we love you. Blessings. Peace out.
Peace.
Later, Prairie.
See ya.